Hello and welcome to the 2013-14 season of the NMMA. This is season 4 for us, which means that there are 12 seasons remaining, including this season. The biggest news to come since the last video is that we have a major relocation. So Porsche Dog, who was in charge of the Boston Celtics, and Lockmore, who was in charge of the Portland Trail Blazers, have switched positions as the result of a chaos event. So Lockmore is now in charge of the team in Boston, but it has been rebranded from the Celtics to the St. Vincent St. Mary Fighting Irish. That's right, that's LeBron's high school team is now going to be the professional sports team in Boston. And Porsche Dog will be taking control of the Portland Trail Blazers. So just to be clear, all of their assets, including players, coaches, picks, and whatnot, have been swapped on their team. So LeBron and everything will be going from Portland to Boston, and vice versa. Brevin Baker, I suppose, who was the lead player after all the trades that Boston have made, will be moving over to Portland. We'll see that on the rosters, which we will jump into right now. So starting off with the Philadelphia 76ers, the big three-way trade that happened last night brought Serge Ibaka back to Philly after being traded away, I think, early last season. The Charlotte Bobcats, amazingly, Tim Duncan did not regress in the Player Prog video that was released yesterday. They added Oscar Schmidt, the Chaos Event player from last season, who is an 84 up to 85 with morale now. 31-year-old who was drafted, I think, like 9 overall, 8 overall, something like that. The Bucks, unfortunately, did not get lucky and land Giannis in the offseason. But they did have some good progression. They traded Victor Oladipo, this number 2 overall pick, for Chris Middleton. And they had some good progression for Patrick Beverley and Brandon Knight. The Chicago Bulls made a move to acquire Rajon Rondo, moving Ty Lawson and Danilo Gallinari. And also brought in Mozgov and JJ Redick for, I forget what they sent to the Heat. We'll see soon, I suppose. I like the way that they've retooled and they didn't spend any picks to do it. So very curious to see if they rise in the rankings. Cleveland Cavaliers made no major changes, but did have good progression for both Whiteside and Butler. I think a +2 to Harden as well, up to a 94 overall. I think that he is firmly in the top 10 players in the league now. Here's the St. Vincent St. Mary Fighting Irish, as I was talking about. LeBron James, Roy Hibbert, who was just acquired in the three-way trade. Kyle Lowry, Kevin Martin. Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard both had pretty good progression. You can see there will be some issues with morale due to the relocation, but that should work its way out pretty soon. Vancouver Grizzlies, no major changes. Kind of whiffed on free agency, but they had a great draft pick in Tim Hardaway Jr. The Hawks had a +5 to Kawhi Leonard. Huge development for them. Brought in Kyle Korver as well. The Miami Heat, they were involved in the second trade with Chicago Bulls. They also signed Nenad Krishtik. Utah Jazz, I don't think they made any sort of major changes in this past offseason. They did have a little bit more good progression for Paul George, up to a 92 with morale. Sacramento Kings, a lot of great progression. Even Luol Deng, a 28-year-old, progressed, I think, +2 or something like that, up to an 86. This team is looking good. I think that they made the playoffs and then lost in the first round, I believe, to the Jazz last year. They're going to be probably looking even better. Boogie will be looking to repeat as an All-NBA center. The Knicks, no major movement for them. A little bit of progression for Deron Williams was very fortunate. Los Angeles Lakers. So despite having a little bit of regression for Matt Barnes and Lamar Odom, the big story here is that Ajinça went another +4. They're starting power forward now. And I think Jamal Crawford went +2. Jameer Nelson has not really regressed that much. I think he maybe went -1. And Omar Casspi went +2 as well. So With some coaching changes, maybe the Lakers will be looking to move back into the playoff race. The West is looking deeper than ever, even with LeBron having moved. The Magic, no major changes. They signed TJ Ford. Dallas Mavericks drafted Otto Porter. They're still deep in the rebuild. They had Dennis Schroeder go off in the summer league and hit two very good events that improved both his overall and his potential. New Jersey Nets are getting old. You know, both KG and Dirk are on the other side of 35. They both regressed a little bit. I think Dirk was -2. KG was -1 or 2. I kind of forget. The Nuggets, the talk of the town here. Not only did they sign Derrick Rose to pair with Steph Curry in maybe the most dominant backcourt in the entire league, but they also traded Ibaka and 3 firsts for Al Horford. This team is looking absolutely dominant. I expect a dynasty out of them, and I think that they are going to be toppling the Rockets. The Pacers, under new management, had a little bit of good progression for Dion Waiters. They signed Corey Maggette as well. They're still looking to be probably about on that bubble of making the playoffs. The Pelicans, no major signings or trades. They were a 3 seed last year with MVP Chris Paul. He'll be looking to repeat his performance. The Pistons had good progression for Kimba, Mike Conley, and Vooch. The Raptors, in their post-Derrick Rose days now, are taking it in stride. They had a +4 development to Harrison Barnes, which is very important for them. Valanciunas, OJ Mayo, Mahimi, Bennett. They've got, quite a few good front court options. The Houston Rockets got a +4 to Kyrie Irving. Our reigning champs drafted Quinn Carl in the first round. Looking to stay the course. The Spurs had some good progression. DeMar DeRozan now up to an 88. They traded for DJ Augustine for a very cheap price. Very deep team. They're maybe looking to come back to the Western Conference Finals. Who knows? West is always a bloodbath. Phoenix Suns brought back Steve Nash for a 10th consecutive season with the Suns. That's 12 total. I think he's in his 18th season in the NBA now, but only -1. And then a +4 to Kendall Marshall was very important. Seattle Supersonics. They are a tale of two halves of their team, where a lot of the older players have regressed just a little bit, but I mean, they're deep in the tank, so not too big of an issue. And then Rudy Gobert is leading the charge in their rebuild. The Oklahoma City Thunder, after a very controversial trade, moving Dame Lillard to the LeBron team, now St. Vincent St. Mary, for several swaps and a pick. Boyamin Ali, I think, is now their leading scorer, likely. Minnesota Timberwolves, best defense in the league, looking to be significantly better after they added Giannis. MKG had some good progression, as well as Nate and Drummond. Man, this is a star stopper for sure. The new Portland Trailblazers, this was the former Boston Celtics. This is the team that is now operated by Porsche Dog. You can say they are deep in the rebuild now, bringing in a ton of picks. They brought in Ibaka and then flipped him. Now have Michael Beasley, Brevin Baker, JaVale McGee, Victor Oladipo. Very curious to see what this team does, but they'll probably be deep in the tank. Golden State Warriors, after moving off of Rondo, brought in Ty Lawson, Rudy Gay, Danilo Gallinari. They had some good progression for Klay Thompson. This team is looking quite a bit better. I think they're going to be in the playoff race. There's just too many teams that are competing well in the West. And to wrap it off, the Washington Wizards, no major changes, but some great progression for Thomas Robinson, now kind of shockingly better than 25-year-old year 3 Enes Kanter. He may be the face of their front court future. Okay, now let's take a look at cap tables. As always, a big shout out to Shane for updating everybody's cap tables. I'm going to sort by most expensive salary just so that that'll be a little bit easier to validate with the sheet. If anybody needs it sorted by overall, though, I can do that instead. Just feel free to DM me about it. As always, the salary cap is turned off, and so please make sure that you are keeping your sheet up to date. Let's not have that just fall on Shane. Also be contributing to it yourself. And the team salary total on the top left is accurate, but salary cap you can see is blank, and the luxury tax room is way, way, way too high because we have everything turned off. You'll have to be using the sheet to actually calculate your cap space. The salary cap for this year is $76.11 million, and we will see if it happens to raise in the future or not. There's a lot of discussions behind the scenes right now. The hard cap is set to $120.20 million. You see the new look Bulls here. Despite all their changes, they are still quite a bit below the luxury tax. And they have all their picks, so they could make more moves. Paul Millsap and James Harden both on their new 5-year contracts. Millsap getting the bag. The Fighting Irish. High school team turned pro. Vancouver Grizzlies. Batum and Westbrook. Those new contracts are already just 2+1s. And as always, dead cap. Don't necessarily pay attention to what it says in the video. Sometimes it does bug, and so we're using the sheet to track the accurate dead cap. So that will be the final say as to what your dead cap and cap space are. Utah Jazz have a lot of expiring salaries this year. Curious to see if they extend or if they trade some players or wait to see what happens in free agency. This team has been consistently in the top of the West, despite 2 second-round exits. Kings looking good. Just barely over the salary cap. Luol Deng expiring this year. Curious to see if they extend him or not. Zach Randolph expiring. It's quite a bit of money coming off the books for the Knicks. Curious to see what kind of changes they can make as well. Lakers with some big decisions to make. Do they compete this year, or do they use the expiring nearly $50 million between Kobe and Pau to flip that and have some salary come off the books coming into next season? Time will tell. The Orlando Magic off of back-to-back finals appearances, including a ring. Dallas Mavericks with good amount of salary falling off the books next season. Their big signings with Schroeder and Porter. The Nets, Bogut, Ray Allen, Chauncey Billups, and Dirk all expiring this year. That is a ton of salary coming off the books. Very curious to see if they continue to compete. The Nuggets, super locked up and looking to go on a dynasty run. This is probably the best Dobbsy team I have ever seen. Pacers, Okafor and AK-47 falling off the books after this year. They should have a ton of cap space. Curious to see if they flip them or not. Pels with Tyson Chandler probably looking to get paid. Jason Richardson had an unfortunate little bit of regression. $15 million for Paul Pierce has fallen off the books. He's getting pretty old. I think he's like 36 now is what it said. Curious to see if they re-sign him or not. Pistons are in that interesting position where they have that one-star veteran and then everybody else is much younger. The Rockets, after extending pretty much all of their youth this past offseason. Landry Fields, the big question for the future. That Turkoglu contract finally expiring for the Spurs after this season. Man, they have had a ton of good progress, and they very well may be making a big signing. Coming off of a Western Conference Finals appearance. Phoenix Suns just squeaked into the playoffs last year. They also have a good amount of contract falling off with Gortat. Curious to see if they extend him or not. Sean Marion, Steve Nash. Big question is what they do with Wade. Supersonics with a ton of cap space, even with the Ben Gordon opt-in. And all the young rookies deep in the tank in the Thunder. Okay, that'll wrap that up. Okay, next we're going to be looking at picks, and I really hope you have the volume on because I need to explain something. Because of the switch between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Boston Celtics, now the St. Vincent St. Mary Fighting Irish, the picks that were already generated have the name of the original team. So, as you can see here, the two picks here for the 76ers, the 2014 Trailblazers pick and the 2015 Trailblazers pick, these are actually going to be based on the results of the Fighting Irish. The results of Lockmore in Boston are going to determine where these picks fall. Even though it says Trailblazers, there's no way to rename the picks. So I'm going to go through and find any of the instances that somebody has one of these picks and make sure that they know that they are not tracking the results of the Trailblazers, they are tracking the results of the Fighting Irish and vice versa. So this is going to be the case from 2013, which is the current year, through 2017. Starting in 2018, that was after the name switch already happened, so they are generating the picks with the correct names. Those will be labeled correctly. So 2018 first that says Fighting Irish is actually Fighting Irish. 2017 first that says Fighting Irish is actually based on the Portland Trail Blazers result. So make sure that you're keeping track of this. If you have a Trailblazers pick or a Fighting Irish pick from 2013 to 2017, the results that determine where the pick lands will be the opposite of what the name says. I'm going to make a note of this, but please have your volume on for these videos, and please make sure that you're tracking that. Okay, 76ers, Bobcats. This is up to date with the two trades that happened right before the video. Both Blazers trades, including the three-way trade. Fighting Irish, I'm going to take another moment to show you here, this is what I was talking about. So these two Trailblazers picks right here, these actually are Fighting Irish picks, okay? And then here, 2018, after this point right here, these two are actually Fighting Irish picks, and that will be based on the Fighting Irish, like, finishing position. These Trailblazers picks also based on the Fighting Irish finishing position. Hawks with a bunch of picks. Lakers now out of Steppy and Hell. Pistons loaded on picks as well. Rockets with every second imaginable. Supersonics have to be the most loaded in terms of picks team. Or the Thunder. Very, very close between them. The Thunder may have more firsts. Hard to say. Trailblazers. Okay, this is another instance. You can see all of these Fighting Irish picks. These are actually Trailblazers picks through this first right here, or this second right here. All of these that say Fighting Irish are actually going to be based on how these Trailblazers finish, Porsche Dog's team. However, afterwards, these two that are labeled as Trailblazers picks are also based on how the Trailblazers finish. So switch the name if it is between 2013 and 2017. Fighting Irish is actually Trailblazers. Trailblazers is actually Fighting Irish. Okay, so that does it for picks. Let's take a look at what the predicted power rankings are. Remember, always take these with a grain of salt. Okay, this is the 2K Sports predicted. This one is based on, I think it's biased towards big market teams, yeah, and based on the actual like raw stats of the players. Rockets up top. This doesn't seem that absurd to me. I think the Warriors might be a little bit low, but this was generated before they made their trades. Bobcats seem a touch high. Lakers at 3 is impressive. This one is biased towards advanced metrics. You see quite similar. And this one is biased to recent performance, is what it says. But having the Lakers number 1 when I think they were a 12 seed is kind of surprising to me. Not sure that one's too valid. At any rate, these are the predicted power rankings. We will be having our custom power rankings released before the season begins. And don't put too much stock into these. The ones that actually are based on the results that come after Sims are much more accurate. Okay, next we're going to be taking a look at everybody's system proficiencies. So remember that this may bug and not show your actual starting 5, especially if you made any sort of trades. So take that with a grain of salt. You can always DM me, and I'll send you the full system proficiencies with the players that you want. You see, this is a common bug that happens prior to the beginning of the season, where the point guard is not populated in the bottom. However, I have seen that actually is based on who your starting point guard is. It's just a display issue, so don't be too worried about that. As you can see on display here with the very big swings in terms of system proficiency for Rondo, who is probably one of the most system dependent players in the entire league. Foyt and Irish. Remember that after this season is when the coaching contracts that were generated from the coach draft are likely to expire. So if you do want to extend your coach, I'll make an announcement about that, and you can do that during this season. Otherwise, you'll be having to shop for a new coach in the offseason, which may not be a bad thing. Okay, so that wraps that up. Next, let's take a look at coach progression, which, again, I don't know if coaches actually progress or not, but we are going to show this at the beginning of every season so that you can track your coach and see if his ratings or badges have changed at all. This should help in determining if you want to stick with your coach or not. I'd say probably 90% of the coaches are still the same from the coach draft that happened prior to the league starting. There are some exceptions. Remember, the only changes that you're allowed to make are for your head coach and your assistant coach. Any of the other coaches are not editable. Okay, so the shot doctor, big man coach here, we're just leaving that as the default for whatever you have on your team. They make a very negligible difference anyhow. Okay, and now we're going to take a look at the coaching candidates. So if you do want to make any sort of coaching changes, these are the ones that are available to you. Is that Jason Kidd? Oh yeah, it is. He's available now. Just recently retired after winning a ring last year. I'm going to go down through the C's for both offense and defense. Okay. One thing I want to notice is that this is actually inaccurate. Shaquille O'Neal should be the assistant coach for the Warriors, so he is not available to give an offer to. And remember that the system preference that is listed here is their top system preference, but that doesn't mean that they don't have very high ratings for other systems as well. So you're not pigeonholed to just running that system. He may be very close to as good in another one. All right, so that should do it for coaching candidates. Now let's take a look at contract extensions to wrap things up. So remember, this starts a new cycle. So you are allowed to sign 2 players during the season, and then 1 player in the following offseason. You're allowed to extend 2 players in the current season, then 1 in the following offseason. That's because, as you can see, a lot of players do agree to extensions, and we want to ensure that there is a good amount of turnover so that free agencies don't become too shallow. And it's just a little bit better for parity. As always, please note that trades do revert the status of somebody being willing to extend. So if you're trading for someone who is just about to, like, that you want extended, make sure that you execute the extension prior to the trade happening. That is done by both posting in the trade log, whenever like you actually post the trade, hey, please extend before trading, and also making sure that you put it in the team chat of the original owner. Because I will have to execute that before the trade is actually input. Kobe and Powell willing to extend for the Lakers. That could be big news, whether they are seeking to trade them or hold on to them. Dirk willing to resign for the Nets. Billups, Bogut, and Garnett as well. Pretty much all of their old core. Prez's beloved Boobie Gibson, now under new management. Curious to see if Bobby Weatherspoon tries to extend him or not. Perennial MVP candidate D Wade is willing to extend for the Suns. That's huge for them. He's helped buoy them through a pretty rough patch. Oops. Okay, that'll wrap it up. So we're going to be setting the next deadline for probably Saturday afternoon because I do have plans tomorrow. So make sure to be making plenty of trade signings and get your rotations in before then. Happy trading.